Pleasant evening to all. It's another beautiful Wednesday. It is the 18th day of October 2023, and October is just slipping away so very quickly. Every time I come here, I say I don't know where the months and the weeks are going, but it's getting mighty close to December. It's getting mighty close to Christmas. And it's another edition of On the Mark here on the Eastern Caribbean Spa House Vaughan Radio. And of course, you heard my voice last week, and you're hearing my voice again this week. So the Honorable Mark Brantley is not in, the regular host for the show, but I'm here with you, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, Deputy Premier of Nevis. And so it is my pleasure once again to host the program for this evening. And let me take this opportunity once again to welcome all of you who are in tune and those of you who are logged on to the Eastern Caribbean Spa House Vaughan Radio 860 on your AM dial, www.vaughanradio.com. Of course, we are live on Facebook as well. And we are here every Wednesday night from 8 until 10 o'clock, commercial-free talk show radio. And of course, we always say it's the probably the most popular in St. Kitts and Nevis and throughout the region. Everybody listens and logs on to listen to On the Mark. So let me say good night to all of you in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, those across the region, those in the diaspora. It is always a pleasure to have you logged on and in tuned to Vaughan Radio. And of course, we also remind you that the show is broadcast tonight from 8 until 10, but tomorrow there is a rebroadcast from 1 until 3. So those of you who unfortunately may miss the show tonight, you can always grab it tomorrow from 1 until 3. And those of you who listen tonight, I know some of you listen twice. It's so good that some persons prefer to listen twice. They listen on a Wednesday night and they listen again on a Thursday, and we are happy for that. And so we greet all of you. It's a beautiful Wednesday evening here in Nevis. Of course, it's a warm evening as usual. That is the cry from everybody nowadays on the island of Nevis. It's very warm every day, every night. On my way in, I realized that we had a little shower here in the town area. We didn't have any up in the Gingerland area. I don't know if that is going to change a little later tonight, but I noticed that there was a little shower here in the Charlestown, Bath Village, Stony Grove area this evening, and we are happy for that. What we realize nowadays, though, even though when we get the rain, it does not stop the heat. So the heat is definitely on. Every day it's in the 90s, and we are hopeful that we can see a cool down of the weather sometime soon. Normally around October it starts to cool down, and so we are hopeful that very soon we can see a little change. I know persons in England, persons in the US are already saying that it's cold up there. It's cold up there already. And so we are hopeful that very soon we're going to see a little change in the weather, so at least we could get a little cooler weather, because everyone is crying, practically crying out for the heat. But we'll have to try to bear it in whatever way we can. So good night once again to all of you, wherever you are. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, whatever part of the world you are. We know that we have listeners in every part of the globe. Every part of the globe, people stay up just to listen to the Eastern Caribbean Spa House for On the Mark. Of course, normally at the top of the show, we normally do a little housekeeping business. I have the guests in the studios with me, but before I get to my guests, we have a little bit of housekeeping matters. And of course, we always try to shout out the persons who are celebrating. And life is so fickle and so fragile now. We are happy when we can celebrate a birthday or an anniversary or anything to celebrate. We must celebrate, and celebrate in style if we may, or if we must. And so I want to say special good night and birthday greetings to two persons in particular. Joyce, moving over there in Fothergills. I know, Joyce, that you've had a wonderful day. Enjoy what's left of your special day. Joyce, always a very bubbly person, and I know she was extra bubbly today. So Joyce, enjoy what's left of your special day. And going over to Brickhill, saying good night, and it's Swanston. I know you're celebrating your birthday today as well, so happy birthday to you. Hope you've had a wonderful day so far. And anyone else who might be celebrating birthday or anniversary, whatever the need for you to celebrate today, celebrate in style. You have another couple hours to celebrate. I know some persons, when they celebrate, they say, well, I'm going to celebrate for the rest of the month. If you want to do that, you have permission to do that as well. And extending some advanced birthday greetings to Sharinique. Sharinique Radio celebrating your birthday on Saturday. So hope you're going to have a wonderful time. And of course, we always say good night to the persons who are a little bit under the weather. And so we normally say good night to the persons who may be in the hospital, the Alexandra Hospital, those of you who may be in the homes, the Flamboyant Nursing Home, those in the St. George and St. John Senior Citizens Home. We say good night to you. I know you may not be feeling the best tonight, but we greet you nonetheless. And of course, we want to greet all the lovely persons who are taking such wonderful care of you. And so we greet all of the staff at the Alexandra Hospital, the staff at the Flamboyant Nursing Home, the staff at the St. George and St. John Senior Citizens Home. Continue to take good care, continue to be patient with the patients, and you're going to get your blessings. And of course, we say condolences to those of you who are in the bereaved column. Last week when I was here, there was a lot of names that I called out, and to add to those names tonight, I want to say condolences to the family of the late Maga France. I don't know her correct name, but everybody knows Maga. Everybody knows Maga from over there in the St. James area. I know Maga actually used to come to our agriculture open day and sell plants. I saw her in the hospital on Friday and I spoke to her. I didn't expect to get the news that she would have passed. And so to those, the family of the late Maga France, we say heartfelt condolences. I know she would have left us. She was slipped away very quickly. As I said, I did speak to her. She was quite lively when she spoke to me at the hospital on Friday, but I got the untimely news that she had passed. I think it was last evening I got that news. And of course, when I was here last week, I forgot to say condolences to the family of the late Gwenny. That's the only thing I know her by, Gwenny over in Brick Hill. That's a lady who was part of our seniors group, and she would have had an untimely passing as well. So we say condolences to the family of the late Gwenny and the family of the late Maga and the family of all those who are grieving at this time. We extend our heartfelt condolences to all of you from us here at the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse and us here from On The Mark. And just before I get to my guest as well, I just want to share a little bit of information. This kind of information we don't really like to hear, but we have to share it anyway. And it's a little bit of information from NEMA and the Met Office in St. Kitts. And it is saying that Tropical Storm Tammy formed as of 5 p.m. today from Invest 94L. Now, Tropical Storm Tammy has sustained winds of 40 miles per hour and it's moving in a westerly direction at 23 miles per hour. The projected track calls for Tammy to be in our vicinity by late Friday or Saturday. Tammy will influence our weather during Friday and more so on Saturday based on the current forecast track. Residents are urged to closely monitor the progress of Tammy. No tropical storm watch or warning is in place for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, but this is likely to change probably by tomorrow. Additional updates will be shared throughout the upcoming days. So once again, let me just go through that again. Tropical Storm Tammy formed as of 5 o'clock this afternoon from Invest 94L. Tropical Storm Tammy has sustained winds of 40 miles per hour and it's moving in a westerly direction at 23 miles per hour. The projected track calls for Tammy to be in our vicinity by late Friday or Saturday. Tammy will influence our weather during Friday and more so on Saturday based on the current forecast, and residents are urged to closely monitor the progress of Tammy. Now, once again, no tropical storm watch or warning is in place for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, but this is likely to change. And so, of course, we know that we are in the hurricane season. Of course, we know the peak of the season is normally around September, and so we are now going towards the end of October, and so this season should be tapering off because we know the season comes to an end on the 30th of November. And so normally once we get September behind us, we start to feel good. But nowadays with climate change, anything is possible. and we don't know what's going to happen even in December sometimes. So we got to be on the lookout. We got to be on alert at all times. And so we have to be on alert because Tropical Storm Tammy is going to be in our region, they say, by Friday evening, Saturday, sometimes Saturday. And so I know that when Philip passed here recently, we got quite some wind. We didn't get the amount of rainfall that we anticipated or was forecast. But what they're saying now for Tammy is that we should be getting a lot of rain. We don't know, but we will wait and see. We are hopeful that we don't get as much wind as when Philippe passed. But please, we're asking persons kindly to stay close to your radio, stay close to your television. Make sure you listen all of the relevant updates and be prepared for whatever happens. We are hopeful that it will just brush us and we will get some rain, so at least we can cool down the temperature a bit. But, and as I said, we are hopeful that we would not get much of a wind. But we don't know what the impact will be. But please be on the alert and please be on the listen out for whatever updates there are for Tropical Storm Tammy. Alright, and of course we know nowadays they tend to change direction ever so often. We saw Philip was moving away from us, then it come and it hit us with some wind, and so we don't know what eventually will happen with Tammy. We are just hopeful that it will not be too strong when it gets into our vicinity. I was looking at a report this afternoon, and the person was suggesting that the European models are suggesting by the time it gets closer to us, it should be weaker. However, the American models were suggesting that when it gets a little closer to us, it should be stronger. So we don't know. But they were also suggesting that when it gets in our vicinity, it should have winds of about 50 miles per hour or less or more. So we will just wait and watch and see what happens to Tammy. So Tammy, please don't treat us too bad when you come pass us by on Friday or Saturday. All right. Well, those are some of our housekeeping matters. It's now 14 minutes away from 8 o'clock. As I did suggest, I have two guests with me this evening, and it's always good to have company. And we have a lot of things to cover tonight. We may not be able to cover all of what we want to cover until we reach 10 o'clock, but I'm going to say now, here and now, that the lines will be open in case you want to ask any of our guests any questions. And so the lines, of course, 869-469-1616-1700. But I have two guests who are absolutely no strangers to the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse. And of course, when I was here last week, I did indicate that a lot of things happen in October. We don't know why. October is just filled and overflowing with everything. Everything happens in the month of October. We focus on the teachers. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's Financial Literacy Month. I mean, so many things happen. We also indicated it's World Food Day, and everybody tries to celebrate in the month of October. I don't know why, but it's full and overflowing. When I was here last week, I spoke to many different things, and I did speak about World Food Day. Now, World Food Day was celebrated on Monday, the 16th of October, and I did indicate last week when I was here that the Department of Agriculture is having a week of activities for World Food Day. And I'm sure a lot of persons, we celebrate World Food Day every year. We have activities every year, but I'm sure a lot of our people still are not too familiar in terms of what the real meaning behind World Food Day is. And I think it is important at times that we pause to let persons be more aware of what the meaning behind some of these celebrations are. Because a lot of the times, I said, we celebrate things and sometimes we don't know the meaning behind it. We hear it, but we don't know the meaning behind it. And so I thought tonight it is an opportune time. It is very timely that we discuss World Food Day, what World Food Day is about, what we are doing for World Food Day 2023, and in terms of the goals of World Food Day, in terms of the objectives of World Food Day, what we here in Nevis are doing to ensure that we get into the objectives of World Food Day. And so we're going to have a discussion tonight. And as I said, if there are persons out there who wish to call at any time, feel free to do so. Feel free to interrupt us. And I will now allow my guests to introduce themselves.
Yes, good evening. My name is Steve Reed. I'm the Chief Extension Officer at the Department of Agriculture, and I'm pleased to be here this evening once again to share to the general public some updates as to what is going on in the Department of Agriculture, and especially seeing that we are taking part in this week of activity for World Food Day.
Good evening to the listening public. Again, it's a pleasure for me to be here also. My name is Randy Elliott, Director of Agriculture here at Island of Nevis, and we are looking forward for a fruitful discussion this evening.
Definitely. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And of course, if you would remember, they were here a couple months ago when we were discussing the Agriculture Open Day, and that is why I'm saying the months and the weeks are flying by so quickly. It's just like they were here just like 2 weeks ago. So as I said, we're going to first discuss World Food Day. World Food Day has been around for a very, very long time, and it is important that we put things into perspective first and foremost. Any one of you, what is World Food Day? Why do we celebrate World Food Day every year?
Okay, well, sometimes persons just look at the events at agriculture, and again, you would have heard the term World Food Day, agriculture celebrating World Food Day, and you're so correct. A lot of persons don't necessarily know the exact meaning behind of it, but in 1945, the United Nations, through the Food and Agriculture Organization, would have came together and decided that it is time for a reduction as it relates to hunger globally. So the charter was first set in 1945, but it was not recognized globally until 1979, when some 150 different countries would have actually came on board, because one of the things that started to be recognized globally is that hunger started to affect countries all over the world. And it was then in 1979 when you would have had 150 countries coming on board and actually recognizing October the 16th as World Food Day. Since then, we here in Nevis have been doing our part as it relates to trying to see how can we reduce hunger, but not just reduce hunger, but to ensure food sovereignty and nutrition security for the people here in the island of Nevis. In 2014, the call was sent again, and I think at that time, when the theme at that point in time was Zero Hunger. And again, then at that point in time, there was some rebirth into the whole celebration of World Food Day. So there onward, we celebrate the event on the 16th of October every year. This year is no different. There have been themes over the years. For this year, the theme is Water is Life, Water is Food, Leave No One Behind.
Yes, and I love how we did this opening. Mr. Elliott gave all the policies, and from a technician point of view, you know, there have been a stigma attached to agriculture, and so we at the department, especially the extension, the technical wing, you take advantage of the opportunity of World Food Day and any other activity, or you call it event that is being kept to promote agriculture as a career, to show people the importance of agriculture. So every time there's World Food Day, we don't wait until open day exhibition to show the general public that we're working, we're doing stuff. We take the opportunity to show what advances we have made, what new technology is there. So we take advantage of the whole situation and promote the Department of Agriculture, all aspects of it.
And of course, Randy spoke to the issue of hunger, and that is the real reason why World Food Day was started. And I don't think here in Nevis people appreciate the extent of hunger around the world, because I mean the statistics will show from the World Food Organization that there are millions and millions of people worldwide who go to bed hungry every night. They go to bed hungry every night. They can't. There's a lot of food around the world, but it's not very accessible to many persons. And we here in Nevis, I think, and in the region in particular, we tend to take things for granted. And so when we hear World Food Day, the celebration of World Food Day, we have to recognize that we must show and that is why St. Kitts Nevis and the rest of the region, we try to show solidarity with the rest of the world, because the hunger is stark, the reality is stark out there, but we here take things for granted generally, because really and truly there's no real hunger on Nevis.
True.
Oh yes, one of the turn or twist that we would put on it is, rather than focusing on the hunger aspect, we would more focus on nutrition. Consuming more nutritious food,
yes,
a healthier diet, rather than ending hunger. So maybe we have too much here.
Probably.
So we try to push the vegetable, eating more vegan, healthier lifestyle, rather than ending hunger, because it's not as prevalent within the region, as you may say.
Precisely. And of course, apart from the hunger, as you rightly said, the attached to that is also the malnutrition, where people cannot get good nourishing food to nourish their bodies and so on. And so as I said, I think generally we take things for granted here, but we must recognize the plight of so many millions of people worldwide in terms of this hunger situation. And so I'm happy that every year we can show solidarity with the rest of the world in promoting World Food Day, promoting food security, promoting food sovereignty, so at least people can get more and get more nutrition. Okay, now World Food Day, this year, Randy mentioned the theme, water is life, water is food. I love the theme this year, water is food, leave no one behind. Any one of you care to elaborate on this theme on water? Because I don't think, as I said, people take things for granted generally, and we have most of the time water at our disposal here on Nevis. But generally, when there are certain times of the year when water is a little bit scarce, not only here, in the rest of the region as well. And I think this is another resource, a precious resource that we take for granted.
Well, the theme this year, it's very much on point, because I could recall certain times within the year when, if there is no electricity, you may hear a little murmur here and there. But once there is no water, the people cry, and once there is no water. So it clearly shows that water is very critical for our survival, and not just water, but clean water is very critical for our survival as a people. When we look at, even from biblical days, in terms of the days of Jacob and all those guys, all of them would have dug wells. And
you're a pastor now,
right?
boy.
And one of the things that is important, that actually link it to agriculture, they were all shepherds. And it clearly shows with the theme the importance of water to us within the agriculture sector. And without water, we will not be able to do or produce in the manner in which we are to. And if you look at hunger in some of these places, it's sometimes in places where there's a significant limitation as it relates to water. So it clearly shows that water is very, very, very important. It is food, because, again, you can't go too long without water. You cannot go too long without water.
And a lot of our foods, most of it is water.
Is water, yes.
When you look at our fruits in particular, a big percentage of the fruits are water.
Yes.
You know,
Yes,
so
yes,
water
yes.
is indeed food.
Water is indeed food. And the latter part of the theme, leave no one behind. You can't take all the water for yourself. We have to be able to share the water with everyone. We have to educate everyone as it relates to the importance of water. And I think from that point of view, from that perspective, the theme is very fitting this year, knowing what we have been facing within the last few years as it relates to reduction in terms of the distributed rainfall and so
Yes.
forth. Yeah. So I think the theme is very adequate this year.
Fantastic. And of course, we are doing a couple of activities. Every year we do activities for World Food Day, and of course centered around the theme as well. And so we have a week of activities which I would have promoted last week here on the mark. And of course we have 2 members of staff here from the Department of Agriculture, and they would of course elaborate and tell us what is going on this week in terms of the celebration of World Food Day, in terms of celebration of the theme and so on. So you guys tend to care to elaborate in terms of what we're doing, what the department is doing for 2023 in terms of World Food Day and its theme.
Well, Mr. Minister, let me first commend you for your speech yesterday.
Thank you.
Sorry, that's on Monday.
Monday.
Let me first commend you on that, and it is one of the activities that helps to cement the week. We also had our church service Monday at the Lariston Perry Agriculture Depot, where we actually invited a pastor in to spread the word in terms of the importance of water and how is it water fitting to our everyday life, and even from a biblical perspective. We also had the pleasure of a well-trained and seasoned nurse who would have also shared with us the importance of water to us as human beings. Today, we had dubbed today Water Wednesday, so I guess probably that's where we had some showers of rain earlier also. But today, Water Wednesday, we were actually in the Memorial Square there in Charlestown. We must say kudos to Health Promotion Unit. Those 2 young ladies, Oshi and Chanel, who would have distributed to the public something we call infused water. And in all reports that we got from them, that it went very well. We actually had persons actually leaving the courthouse coming outside to sample the infused water. And the water is basically infused with some fresh fruits that we harvested this week from the estates, watermelon and honeydew.
Okay.
And in all remarks, in all reviews, that it was well received. Persons kept asking when they'll be back again. And persons actually showed up with the bottles, right? And actually keep.
But I didn't expect people were supposed to show up with their bottles. I thought a person was supposed to go and get a cup of water.
Well, persons actually showed up with their bottles. So it was a day that we encourage persons to consume water, whether it's plain water or infused water. Tomorrow is what we dub Conservation Thursday, and if you realize that a number of times, and you yourself probably would have received calls of persons complaining about the height of the water bill, and sometimes it's just not. The bill is not necessarily.
Water bill they mean Simon.
No, sometimes people complain, but the bill is not necessarily what they use. Sometimes in one backyard you may have a stopcock just dripping. You may have the shower dripping. You may have the toilet not working properly. Or on a farmer's farm, you may have like the drip irrigation leaking. So we're asking persons on Thursday, that is tomorrow, to see how you can address these issues.
Yes.
to help to reduce the wastage of water. We would have seek the partnerships of two companies here in the island of Nevis, SL Horsfords and TDC, who have decided that anyone who enters tomorrow to seek anything that deals with repairing of their pipes or repairing of anything related to water at home, they'll be getting 20 and 25%.
Well, I wasn't even aware of that.
Respectively. So I must say kudos to those companies that would have came on board to support this venture, because in discussion with them, one of the managers actually told me, why I could see in terms with this, because I got up one morning and there was no water. So water is just not affecting agriculture; it's affecting everybody. So we want to ensure that the whole island of Nevis, anyone, once there's some sort of leak within your household or within your yard, let us try our best to see how we can address it. We also have
Mr. Elliott, before you go further, I know we here sometimes does interpret things, hear what you want to hear. So could you repeat that with some clarity? Because I know at the meeting we specifically said that if you're building a household, don't expect to go to the shopping centers to go and do all your plumbing. No. If you're gonna go and buy a flange, a flap for the toilet, a faucet change, a handle or something,
an elbow
to stop a leak,
yes.
you will get that discount. But
Okay.
don't gather that shopping
Not
for
not
new construction.
thousands of dollars worth of stuff.
Yes.
All right, so I want to make that
I'm
clear.
happy you clarified that.
Because I know how it is at times.
Because some people may think, well, anything to do with plumbing, I'm going to go to do my big shopping tomorrow.
Yes, no, it's not like that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. We also have an activity ongoing. It's a school gathering.
Before you leave, before you go to that though, I think we need to more forcefully encourage people to conserve water, and we also need to make sure we reach out to the department, the water department, and I want to encourage the staff at the water department. As soon as you get a call where there's a leak, you need to try and show up. This is not the time when we can afford for water to be wasting, because I know persons have called me on numerous occasions from different parts of the island and said, well, I have a leak close to me, I see a leak in the village, I see a leak in my vicinity, I have called many times and I'm not getting any response. Now generally our water department services, they are quick and good, but I want to appeal to the water department, please, when you get a call that there is a leak, please try to show up as quickly as you possibly can, because we absolutely cannot afford for water to be wasting now. And as I said, I know persons have called me on several occasions, said, well, I've called the department and I haven't gotten any response. The pipe is still here dripping, the pipe is leaking, and so I have to make calls many times to the staff of the water department. I normally get good response, but any member of the public who calls, you need to show up as quickly as possible. And we, as I said, we must try as much as possible to encourage, and even our farmers.
Yes.
Because a lot of the times the farmers get concession on water,
Yes.
but that does not mean you're supposed to leave on your drip all night either.
Yes.
And so we need to encourage our farmers, our backyard gardeners, to conserve water. You're getting the water at a concessionary rate, yes, but that does not mean you should waste it.
Yes, and Mr. Minister, something that a lot of folks don't really know around here. I deal a lot with FAO and these projects and so forth now, and it's amazing that we in Nevis, the water department, is so effective that they use potable water for farm, for irrigating farm. In other countries, that's unheard of.
Precisely.
It's unheard of that they can turn on a tap and get high quality water going to the vegetables.
Precisely.
And so I must, give the water department.
Because we studied in Trinidad, and in Trinidad you don't get potable water all the time for your farm.
No, I mean, I've been other places and the processed sewage water for one thing, and
Yes.
this for another, and so forth. And the same water that you get in your tap at home is what is going to irrigate the plants
Right.
all year round. So I must give them a lot of credit for being able to meet the demands of the farmers
Right.
and the domestic. And also the hotel industry is growing, and they have done extremely well.
Yes.
But all we're asking for now is to be a bit more diligent, conservative.
Of course.
You know, every job counts now.
You're right.
You know, so I must put that plug for my.
And I want to add, I want to just endorse that, and I have to say kudos. We've gotten tremendous support, excellent service from the water department, and our water bills are not high.
No.
And so we must work with the water department, and have to put in a plug here as well. People need to pay their water bills, and pay your bills on time,
On time.
because it costs money for us to get the water to you. And so if we're getting the water to you on a daily basis, on a regular basis, you need to pay for the service. And the service is cheap. The water is cheap. When we look at a small bottle of water for $5, and then you're getting a couple thousand gallons for maybe what, $13?
7 something.
Yeah, it's water is very cheap.
Yeah.
And so I think that is why people are not conserving it as much as they should. And so we definitely need to put a plug in here to tell people, please, and we are dealing with agriculture here, and so we are asking our farmers, please, you have concessionary rates, conserve it. Do not leave the drip on overnight. Please, you don't need to do that. We're getting rain now and again, so please be very conservative. And again, please pay your water bill on time. Okay, so you can continue with the activities now, Randy.
So, also on Thursday, which is tomorrow, we have a tour of the school gardens tomorrow. It's an ongoing competition that we have among the primary schools here in the island of Nevis. The response to it has been tremendous, not just from the school but from the students and parents. And again, the whole thing behind of it is to try to encourage our children at a very young age the importance of agriculture. And one of the things that we would have put into this competition is water conservation techniques,
Yes.
and also techniques that one could do to help to combat climate change. Because we want to train our children at a very young age.
Yes.
So tomorrow we have a tour, yourself
Yes.
and a few other of your colleagues and peers that will be taking on the tour tomorrow. On Friday,
Before you leave that, tell us a little bit more about the competition for because we had an activity over at the St. Thomas' School recently. We would have distributed seedlings and so on. Tell us a little bit more about the competition and how the children are going to be involved.
well, okay, basically the competition is called School Agro.
Yes.
Right, and it's open to all the primary schools on the island of Nevis. It is sectored into 2 categories. You have those schools with just the open gardens, and then you have those schools that have protected structures.
Yes.
Some of these schools with protected structures would have gotten them as beneficiaries from different grants, such as the New Zealand High Commission. Some would have been through the Jeff grants and so forth.
Yes.
Again, it's all an effort is trying to expose our children to the different aspects
And
of
EPPS would have recently gotten one from a group from St. Lucia, based in St. Lucia.
Helen's Daughters.
Helen's Daughters, yes.
So the whole thing is to educate our children and get them into the norm of trying to feed themselves, and trying to secure food for themselves. So within the categories, we would have distributed lettuce, seasoned peppers, tomatoes, and some herbs, also to the different schools. The school responsibility is to have them planted. Each school is assigned to an extension officer that provide technical support to the school throughout the entire process. And the school is to grow the crops to the best of their ability, and there's actually a category inside there as it relates to creativity in terms of what they do outside of the norm to help to enhance their garden areas. I've made some visits to some of the schools, and schools who I knew had no place to actually farm. To the best of my knowledge, I would have seen some introduction of some grow boxes, A-frames, and so forth. And these are schools that, as I said, don't have places to farm. And the students are very involved. Sometimes you go by the school, the bell ring, children don't want to leave the greenhouse or don't want to leave the farming area. One of the things that I'm urging to the public, though, because we have gotten a complaint from one of the schools that persons are coming in to harvest the thyme, right? I think the school would have replanted twice, and on the 2 occasions that they planted, the thyme was harvested.
Oh no!
Right? So
you actually have people already stealing.
People already stealing, right? But the
children.
But
Come on, we can do better than that.
But from the whole thing, what we have seen is also 1 or 2 students would have actually taken the concept at home and actually doing 1 or 2 plants at home also. So it's something that you're actually saying that transfer is actually taking place at a very tender age. So we just say the competition is within its 2nd year. So we wish every school best of luck and every success. And again, it's not about, at the end of it, it's not about who wins, but it's to ensure that the school is able to grow the crops, grow from strength to strength, and actually use some of these vegetables into the school feeding programs. And again, this would help in terms of what we're trying to do of exposing our children to nutritious food and more balanced diets.
I'm very delighted that that the department would have organized this competition the second year in a row. Of course, I love to see when they're introducing things, including agriculture.
Yeah.
We do it at the primary level as well. Maybe we need to get down to the pre-level as well, because I know when I was at the Department of Agriculture, we did a lot, but a lot of the times we did not get the requisite support from the staff of the schools. I am hoping that has changed, and it looked like it has changed, because we need to get the children involved at an early age, so at least when they grow with it. So I'm happy that the department would have organized this competition 2nd year running.
Okay. On Friday, the 20th, we have something somewhat of a mini agricultural open day, and it will be at the Villa grounds. That is just the space just below the Charleston Secondary School. And again, it's within what I said, it's a mini open day. So similar stuff that you see during the agricultural open day, you will see there at the Villa grounds. But the whole thing behind of it again is more water oriented. So you will see, like for instance, the water department will be there, and what they'll be showcasing is the whole production system of water on the island of Nevis, and avenues where water can be lost or wasted from the production line to your households, and things that you can do to help to address these issues. We have the health promotion unit that will be there, that will be educating us in terms of some waterborne diseases, continue with the infused water, the importance of clean water within your diets. We also have food vendors that will be there selling food from different territories within the region. We have some farmers that will be there in terms of, and I know one of the farmers would have called me this evening and tell me she's coming with her words, a load of sorrel.
Sorrel?
A load of sorrel.
So early in the year?
A load of sorrel. So for persons who wish to start to stock up on their sorrel,
And you can dry the sorrel as well.
that's the place to be on Friday at the Charleston Villa Grounds. We have quite a bit of watermelons also, freshly harvested.
And this is the heat is on.
The
so
heat is on.
People
The
would
heat
need
on.
watermelon.
Yeah, the heat is on. The heat is on. And let's say freshly harvest. They were just harvested this morning. We have quite a bit of honeydew. We have quite a bit of squash. We have pumpkin, green bananas, etc., and so forth. That will be there. So we're asking the public to come out and support. The abattoir will be there again with a number of different products. For those who are looking for local chicken will be there, whether smoke, rotisserie, the burgers, the sausage, etc. Will all be there at the Villa Grounds. The technical arms of the department will be there also in terms of showing persons things they could do within the different areas in terms of from harvesting water to the conservation of water. So the veterinary and livestock will be there showing in terms of farmers how they could harvest water from their pens, what they can do in terms of growing grass, how they could irrigate. The extension will be there showing persons in terms of the uses of drip irrigation. You mentioned that persons like to leave the drip overnight in terms of utilizing of timers on their farms and so forth. So there'll be no excuse to say, oh, I forget the water on, and these sort of things. We'd also have marine resources that will be there, showing that some of the activities that we do on land could actually affect the marine life, right? So all of that will be there at the Villa Grounds. The agro processing unit will also be there with its smoothies and so forth. So we're asking the general public to come out and support. For things will be there for the children, like bumps and castles and so forth. A stock bar would also be there. So we're just asking the persons to come out and support. It runs from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And the entrance is actually free. So there's no cover cost to enter. You just come, you walk with your shopping bags, and you just have fun.
Yes. And based on the note that you read coming from the NEMA, the weather system, it clearly stated that if we do see any...
It's going to be Friday evening.
Okay, then. So don't worry about that. We got that covered.
Don't worry about the weather. Don't worry about Tammy. Tammy's not going to affect what happens on Friday at the Villa.
And when you mentioned sorrel, we're so pleased that we had introduced a variety here on the island that it grows and harvests every 3 months.
Okay.
So there's all year round.
Because I know when we were growing up, sorrel you can only harvest sorrel at Christmas time.
Yes, we have made improvements.
Yes.
And so once there is the demand for sorrel, if you notice, all the shops would have sorrel drink all year round.
Yes.
Round the clock. You know, we're making advancements.
I actually had sorrel drinks to drink today also.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Fantastic. And you also said that the Department of Agriculture will have its stall as usual.
Yes.
And farmers will be there.
Yes.
So in essence, people can come there to do their weekend shopping that they normally do of their vegetables and fruits. They can come there to the villa on Friday and do that big shopping.
Yes.
As you said, just like when you normally come to the open day.
Yes.
Yes, and anything that the department does, you know that we have base price. We believe in...
As a matter of fact, I was going to ask about the price, because people always want a deal when they come to activities like these.
From farm to fork, straight. There's no middleman marking up anything. We have spoken to most of the farmers that they would keep the prices as low as possible, almost as close as wholesale.
If TDC and Hosford give in 20 and 25%, then we have to have a good deal on Friday as well.
And we see the whole thing about it again. As you would have mentioned before, we may not have an issue in terms of hunger, but we have to make sure that the food is available.
Right.
The
Of
food
course.
is available. So it doesn't make sense we have all this production and then the food is not available to everyone.
We have a call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Hello, I'd like to say happy birthday to Joy.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Once again, we are live here on the mark. We are discussing agriculture. If you have any question regarding, we have two guests here in the studios. We have Randy Elliott, who is the Director of Agriculture, and Steve Reed, who is the Chief Extension Officer. We're discussing our events for World Food Day, and then we're going to be getting into a general discussion about agriculture. So the lines are actually open in case you want to call and ask anything or put anything on the table where agriculture is concerned. You can do so. The lines are indeed open. So let's get back to our activity on Friday. Mr. Elliott, you did mention that a number of islands will be represented in terms of the food stalls. You care to elaborate and say which islands will be represented?
Well, you'll have Nevis there, you'll have Barbados there, and you'll have Jamaica there. Think was last year the theme was about multicultural.
Yes.
So we would have somewhat about 12 different territories there.
Okay.
But because of the theme is of water, we would have narrowed down to
Okay.
just a few for this year.
Okay, fantastic. So in essence, people can come, they can buy their stuff for the weekend for their pot, and they can come and get their food during the lunch hour.
Yes.
Fantastic. So in essence, everything will be there come Friday at the villa.
Yes.
Almost like the open day.
Almost like the open day, and I think the parking facilities is the same
As the
next
open.
to the spring.
Okay.
Bath,
Okay.
and you just walk over the bridge and make your shopping.
We have another call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Yes, good evening, and good evening to your panel.
Yes.
Agriculture, very interesting topic.
Yes, sir.
And you touched on a wide range of important aspects.
Yes.
However, in light of the climate change and all that, water is becoming a problem.
Yes, sir.
And I'm wondering, we have a lot of water going to waste when it rains. Now, when it's hot, and when it rains, it rains.
Oh, yes.
And so, the farmers, I think that something can be done. My suggestion is the water that runs on the side of the road when it rains,
Yes.
in the drains and in the guts, right? We could capture that water and use for agriculture. When I was growing up, I grew up in Montserrat, and every 2 to 3 acres, there would be a deep hole dug and now the water that runs in that area is trapped in those ponds. And as boys, we used to go when they full up and swim with logs of wood and so on in these ponds.
Yes.
I'm saying if we use those same strategies and use that, capture that water, clean it up and use it as irrigation on this farm, the agricultural farm, then the potted water, we save more potted water for more direct use.
Yes.
And we will have to use that water for agriculture.
Yes.
And I'm figuring the Cage, for example, and then we will have that spring up in the gut that supplies that area, that lower area with water.
Yes.
Occasionally. In Cage area, all the way up to Fountain, we can capture that water. And we have a couple of ponds up there.
Yes.
Up going up Westbury Road. What are we doing with those waters?
Well, caller, you're making some excellent points, and as a matter of fact, a number of times when we have been in cabinet, we have actually also mentioned the fact that we need to be able, in some way, to trap a lot of that runoff water, because you're right, when we have a lot of rain, it just ends up in the sea. And
Right.
we were making the point earlier tonight as well that in many other islands, that the potable water that we use for our households, the farmers do not use that. And it's normally water like this. I know when I was in agriculture many years ago, you're correct, we had several dams up in the Spring Hill area, and they actually fed all of the farmers in Cades Bay. And so the farmers in Cades Bay never had to depend on the government supply. Over in New River, when I was the extension officer over there at one point in time as well, the farmers over there never had to depend on the government supply, because they they got the supply from the spring, right?
That's right.
So these are things that we need to try to get back into, because as you rightly said, when we have less farmers dependent on the government supply, then we at the household level can have more access to more water. And so you have made some excellent points, caller, and as a matter of fact, many times I have said that we need to get back to utilizing the dams over in the KSB area. I think at one point in time it was an issue of the piping,
Yes.
and so on. So that is something that we definitely need to look at, caller. So you have made some excellent points. You have given us some food for thought, and we need to definitely get back to that. And as you rightly said, we should be trapping more of that runoff, because a lot of water runs off when we have rainfall. So thank you for those excellent points, caller.
You're most welcome, sir. And in addition to that, I wish to set up a meeting with you.
Yes.
You're the Minister of Agriculture, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I'm hoping to meet with you shortly.
No problem at all.
And we have some further ideas that I want to run by you on a more private note first before we make them on the air.
Absolutely no problem.
Okay.
Okay, my office is down at Social Security.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, Mr.
Okay. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Have a good night. Mhm.
As
Yes,
the caller mentioned about the trapping of water, I think this is a perfect opportunity to let you know of a few projects that is ongoing. I'm confident I can mention it now. Hopefully on this Monday coming, I should be taking a delegation of about 8 farmers over to Sinkits, who will be benefiting from some water tanks
Fantastic.
donated from the UN Water Nexus project, where some of the farmers will be given water tanks, solar water pumps, and water sheds will be constructed. And so the whole process will be set up.
Hold that thought. We have another call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Hi, good evening. I want to add a little plug into the
Sure.
program.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
With the soil,
Mhm.
it seems like most of us only drink it on a Christmas time. But you see, when you say things...
Well, Randy just
in
said he had
abundance,
some today.
That's what I do.
Randy
Right?
just said he had some today.
You already have it by me. Yeah, well, that. What happened, right? If you want to soil, you check Omel in Rollins. She always had, because she bring them over from Sinkit. But I went to the agriculture today, and well, they wasn't finished, reaping everything, but I get some honeydew. And I can tell you all, very sweet. I buy 6 of them, and they're sweet. I say, I'm going back tomorrow and buy them. You could ziplock them.
But you cannot buy all because they have to save some for Friday.
Well, pass me, and I can get them there enough from here by now. No, because they didn't get everything. So I decided, well, you could ziplock them and then you serve them. You could give your children to go to school as fruits.
Healthy snacks.
You go to the supermarket and buy the apples and so. You go to the agriculture and they always have a lot of food, watermelon, everything. And the price is worth challenging. Not challenging, it's worth going. I don't even know the word to use, but anyway.
Price is right. Just so the price is right.
Right, the price is right. And I went to the abattoir for me meat also. And they don't have everything. I tell Gary, give me a piece, then let me see, and the chicken and so. They don't have everything preparing, getting everything ready. So I am encouraging, I put in my little bit, I am encouraging everybody to go down there and buy you things them. They are local, they're fresh. And as I tell you, the cantaloupe, very sweet. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. And of course, this caller made a very good point as well, as we talk about nutrition. Fruits. You can give your children your fruits to take to school.
Yep.
You can take your fruit when you want to have a snack during the day. You take your fruit. We have another call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
We have another call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the bar.
Caller, could you listen to the phone and not to the radio and not to the computer? Caller, good evening. Could you listen to the phone, please?
Caller, good evening.
All right. Okay. Caller, could you call back? And when you call back, callers, we say this every week. Listen, when you make a call to us, listen to the telephone, not the computer. The computer will have a delay, so you listen to the telephone. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Yes.
And to your panel.
Yes.
My concern is about the level of investment that government makes in agriculture.
Okay.
When you compare to the amount of that we put into tourism, what we put into agriculture is pittance. If we need to deliver and plan for ourselves, we need to involve the youth. Get every youth who is delinquent and give them zone the island in three and rotate crops in 3 different areas, 3 different areas planted in 3 different times. And the youth them going to be in charge in producing the food. And they will in turn get the money. Poverty is one of the greatest driver of crime. And if you don't empower the youth them to make their own money, that they could build what they want in their future, we spinning top in mud. We have to invest more in agriculture and not follow the capitalist line. Because we see what happened in COVID-19 with food security.
Yes.
If a zone takes its Nevis into 6 different zones, one zone in Nevis compatible with one zone in St. Kitts, and then you get the youth them, each one in a half acre, you plant carrot, you plant pumpkin, you plant melon, and the next zone prepare for when they harvesting to plant. And then you go on and you rotate that at each time you have one zone in Nevis reaping the same thing, one zone in St. Kitts reaping the same thing, and you rotate round. You just got to invest in tractors, invest in money, in the youth then. But no, we prefer to invest in empty airline seats. Then when we're hungry, we're going to eat empty airline seats. When they use them when they want money, we're going to watch empty airline seats them. We need to involve, buy more tractors, teach them how to operate. We use them on the outside looking in on the business. They need to own the business. Rotate, zone the island in 3, get every youth who don't work in to give them piece of land. Get the head of them, and then you could.
Okay, we lost that caller. Caller, could you call back? You were making some very interesting points, and I have to tell you, I agree with you. We should invest in agriculture, and that actually could probably lead to another area we're going to discuss now, because sometimes we do not actually recognize the dollar value that is invested in agriculture. Caller, we have the caller back online. Good evening, caller. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Yeah, good. I would like to just make my small contribution.
Sure.
First, let me compliment the agriculture department in Nevis for doing an excellent job in helping the country to have food security. I just want to please Randy a little bit first, because he made a point in his presentation earlier saying that when current goes off, people feel the effect, but when water stops running, you try to indicate that people feel it more. Well, I want to tell Randy he's wrong. I tell you why. The electricity will be pumped.
I like that.
And the electricity will be internet and everything, and cable TV and the cable TV. They have a backup system on the network, which only lasts for 3 hours. So, Randy, let's not go there. I don't know what let's not go there, alright? So having pushed my little pitch for my company, let me get back to the issue though. So, yeah, our company, the agriculture department, they've been doing a good job, and people don't seem to understand. If you go to all the supermarkets right now, you find the shelves are empty. And that's because once people hear about storms, they stock up, which is good, and dry goods and stuff like that. And with the existing war in Israel and stuff like that,
yes,
and hurricane season and everything, that's a death sentence for us to have boats coming, ships coming here with stuff. So the agriculture department, they have done such a good job that we have in effect a glut on the market and stuff in some of the areas. Farmers are throwing away things because they have so much, which is good. And in the what do you call it, the livestock area, a lot of people are now investing in livestock.
Yes.
And the person before I called who got cut off, they were making a good point about involving the youth in farming and stuff like that. Because if we have enough goats and sheep here to produce mutton and lamb chops and stuff like that, and we have enough pigs here to produce pork chops and the rest of it, why do we need to import? I mean, one time I heard the statistics that so many millions of dollars are spent in import duties for importing chicken and other stuff.
Yes.
Let's continue to work on it. So they're going to be doing a good job. There are people they don't know. The monkeys have been a problem, and the agriculture department has been working over the years to control the population. The donkeys, they are creating a problem as well.
Yes.
I never knew that donkeys are supposed to eat grass, but I can tell you, they have been doing some real damage to livestock farmers. And you don't have to take my word for it. Call any of the livestock farmers and ask them if they have not met tremendous destruction from donkeys grabbing young kids and young lambs and just biting them for no reason. I don't know why. I don't know what's the fun about that, but that's something else. But then again, if donkeys can go into the garbage and eat chicken and stuff like that, then you see where we're going. So I just want to publicly voice my appreciation for the work that the agriculture department has been doing. Some of it has been done behind the scenes, and they need to keep it that way. You have Greenpeace and other people around here who will try to promote the country in a bad way if they were to see that some of the animals that are doing disruption need to be called. But that's a different matter for a different forum. But yeah, the agriculture department has my blessing, and like I said, I'm not God, but I'm somebody who look at things in a broad manner, and I want to definitely encourage all the guys in agriculture to continue doing the hard work they're doing, and basically ensure one thing: food security for living and thinking. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your excellent points, and thanks for your commendation for the Department of Agriculture. And if I could get back to what I was saying a while ago. Now, the caller previous to this caller was talking about investing in agriculture. And a lot of the time, sometimes we invest and we do not count the dollar value that is invested. Of course, there's always more that can be invested, because I am one. I have always been a champion for agriculture, and of course, wherever I go, I always say throughout the region, the governments, they talk the good talk, but they need to invest more. But when we talk about investment now, let us look at what some of what the department and the government did, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, because a lot was invested. And I think the agricultural sector, in terms of the concessions, in terms of what was given away to farmers and fishermen, I think the agricultural sector by far got the most. So gentlemen, can we get an appreciation of some of the things that were done during that COVID-19 pandemic, that 2-year span? And of course, as I said, sometimes we do not count the things that were given out during the COVID, and the concessions that are provided to farmers and fishermen on a daily basis.
Well, let me first again say thanks to the NIA in terms of during COVID, not during COVID, but on the onset of COVID, who would have sanctioned in terms of the support to the agriculture sector. Within my research, I think Nevis was one of the first islands within the region who would have stepped up and said, we're going to do particular things for our farmers. And we would have done quite a bit as it relates to seeds and chemicals to our farmers. We'd have done well over $50,000 in value as it relates to seeds and chemicals for our farmers. We'd have done in terms of a number of fencing wire. I think we did well over 100 rolls of fencing wires, valuing at about $650 each. And these again were given to not just commercial farmers in terms of crops, but also you had some persons within the backyards, persons with households who were not properly fenced. We would have helped them in terms of fencing an area to ensure that they have food for their households. We also, in terms of labor, we would have done almost $100,000 in value as it relates to labor, in terms of utilizing our staff on farmers' farms, and also employing persons specifically in terms of assisting farmers as it relates to labor on their farms. We would have done, in terms of services, quite a bit of tractor services and backhoe services to farmers, existing farmers, new individuals who wish to enter the sector. We would have done quite a bit. And this is also something that was never looked at. But we also provided transport for farmers during the heart of COVID, where staff from the Department of Agriculture actually went to the different homes of farmers, collected them, took them to the farm, returned late in the day, took them back home, and so forth. So
I wasn't even aware of that.
That within itself is also a value. We also look at the water concession for farmers, and not just concession but free water, which from the onset it was supposed to just run for at least, I think it was 6 months.
Yes.
And it actually ran for about a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And if you look at, for instance,
you need to repeat that.
It ran for almost a year and a half.
So you're saying that farmers got free water
for a year and a half.
A year and a half.
A year and a half.
That is unheard of in the region.
Valuing, well, when I look at...
And you're right, because I remember recently when we were in cabinet, when the Honorable Spencer Brand said that farmers are still getting water free, we didn't believe, because we were not aware that it was still happening.
Well, well, for those who are still getting free water, we're running actually into 3 years.
3 years.
And if you were to look at a dollar value for that, from COVID to now, you're looking somewhere close to $300,000 as it relates to free water.
And it wasn't just
I think it's going to be much more than that, Randy.
And it wasn't just commercial farmers.
Mm-hmm.
Backyard. Once you were producing something significant enough to make a contribution to food security, the extension officer would have signed off, and you would have been given that free water. Once it wasn't going to your household, you have to have the two separate meters. So it was all over. The drive was about food.
I wonder if the world is listening.
Because
it still sounds unbelievable that farmers were able to get free water for upwards of a year and a half.
Well, 3 years, because some are still getting free water.
I think
you're going to send a signal to the water department tonight.
The reason why
our farmers here on the island of Nevis, you are very, very, very fortunate.
But as mentioned before, the original was just for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Cabinet approval was just for 6 months.
So you all disobeyed cabinet then?
Well,
the water department disobeyed cabinet.
We're just for 6 months.
They were securing their food.
We're just for 6 months.
I think one reason why the public, how vast, how expansive it was, is that apparently the farmer who wants to hold the same price wouldn't promote that they're getting free water. Because if you're getting free water, that means your price.
And that is why we always encourage our farmers to please work with the public as well, because you would have benefited so much, especially during that 2 years period. I mean, Mr. Randy, you just mentioned free water, free seeds and seedlings,
land preparation,
free land preparation, free chemicals, free service, labor, transportation, free wire, free fencing wire, and the list goes on and on and on. Wait, continue then.
Continue. Tell them about the marketing and storage. Go ahead.
We also actually gone from collect food actually, and even within that, we also did a lot of food distribution to the security forces. We also did food distribution to some households. We also did food distributions to the hospital. So we did quite a bit during the pandemic, and even when we actually were coming out of the pandemic, we still continue to do quite a bit as it relates to agriculture here in the island of Nevis. We also did repairs to some farmers and the shade houses. We also helped persons to erect some protected structures. But again, as the caller would have said before, there's a lot of things that goes on within the sector that the public is not aware of.
And we need to do a better job of promoting what we do. Because, a lot of the times we get the charge that the Nevis Island administration is not doing anything. But based on what you just heard here from a technician, from the Director of Agriculture, from the Chief Extension Officer in Agriculture, you would have heard how much the Nevis Island administration invested in agriculture, and that is what we keep saying. This is the sector that we invested most in during the COVID-19 pandemic, and the evidence is clear.
Yes.
Based on what we just heard here, the evidence is crystal clear. And so the Nevis Island administration would have heavily supported and subsidized the agricultural sector long before the pandemic, but during the pandemic it was pronounced, and we continue to do it.
Mr. Minister?
And I'm proud to be a part of an administration that is supporting local agriculture in Nevis.
Mr. Minister, please allow Mr. Elliott to continue. Can you not done it? So, Mr. Elliott, let's touch on the fish industry. You just on land
yes,
and the livestock.
Of course.
Tell them what you do there.
Well, some of the other things that we would have done, we would have. There's some fishermen who would have assist with fish pot wire.
Yes.
I mean, we also help some with fish pot sticks.
Mm-hmm.
We also help some farmers in terms of even with the fish pot sticks. Also in terms of getting persons to pay persons to actually cut sticks for fishermen and also for farmers to raise different crops.
We have a call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark. We lost that caller. Caller, could you call back, please? Have a little patience. Sorry, Randy, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So I must say that with the tremendous support that the NIA gave to the sector within those 2 years, I think it was something that
$2 million.
I've never seen before.
We have a call online. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
I really have a question for you.
Yes.
I do a lot of local things.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to carry the seedlings over to the thing. Okay, like I use a lot of seasoned pepper because I make my own seasoning and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I carry seasoned pepper, I carry passion fruit, the golden apple seed, whatever seed I think having seed.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of locals. What is here for me?
It's good when you can donate. You just hear how much the government has been giving to agriculture. Somebody needs to give too. You give the Nevis Island administration can give all. Somebody else need to give. So thank you very much for all of what you have given. Continue to give.
Thank you, caller.
You will get your blessings back. All right.
And we just didn't stop at vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
We also did a number of fruit trees and so forth to our different farmers, different households.
Mm-hmm.
We actually did a number of banana suckers and so forth. So right now, as where we stand, we could proudly say that Nevis is somewhat 80% sufficient as it relates to banana production. We are about 90% in terms of green banana production.
Wow.
So again, all of these are spin-off from the inputs from the NIA during the pandemic.
This program, I'm sure, is very enlightening. And so now that we're talking about self-sufficiency in certain products, we can maybe segue into the products now that we are self-sufficient in. I know that there are a couple. I can think of a couple of bat. Egg production. Can we get some information about egg production? After that, we can talk about the lettuce and we can talk about the shade house. I did say we have a lot of grounds to cover tonight, and I know we ain't gonna be able to cover half of what we want to cover tonight, but the public needs to be aware of what is happening in the agricultural sector, the revolutionizing of the agricultural sector, and how the Nevis Island administration has played a significant role in that revolutionizing of agriculture here on the island of Nevis. And so we are talking about products now that you just said we are about 80% in terms of our demand for green banana.
Yes.
And I could remember we have come a long way. I could remember the days when every Tuesday people lined up down at the public market, people lined up down on the pier when the boats came in from Dominica, because we were hardly producing any bananas here. But I'm happy now to hear that we are about up to 80% production, which is fantastic. We are going in the right direction, certainly.
Yes. And if you don't believe us,
You
can go in the market when the Dominican boat come. You will see planting, but you wouldn't really see any green bananas because they are local. Go and check for yourself.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Again, another thing that we have done quite a bit of work in is relates to egg production.
Yes. Let's talk about egg production, because we're almost self-sufficient in that. I heard as well. So let's talk about that
not
now.
almost. We are self-sufficient here in the island of Nevis as it relates to egg production 11 months of the year.
Okay.
11 months of the year, and with the exception of December. In December is when, for those who bake, not like the three of us, but for those who bake, that's the time when.
And let me just stop you for a bit. As Weber would say, I ain't so bright, right? So, and for those person out there who are like me, when we say self-sufficient for 11 months of the year, does that mean that we do not have to import any eggs at all for 11 months of the year?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
And not just do not import. We also supply syncets with eggs at times.
So you're saying we're producing enough eggs on the island to supply the local demand, and we are supplying enough so that we can assist syndicates as well.
Yes.
Yes. And you can look on the pier. Every morning you see the cases going to syndicates.
So we're not just here saying it.
Okay, the evidence is there.
The evidence is there.
And whenever I speak, I love to speak about evidence. I love to speak about the evidence.
So basically, if you look at, for instance, our production here in the island of Nevis, on average on the island of Nevis, we have about 10,000 birds on average.
Okay.
Throughout the year. So you may have, in some months you may have 10,800. In some months you may have 10,600. But on average, we say about 10,000 birds, and we produce just roughly about 15,000 dozen. On a monthly basis.
Wow.
Right? If you look at our importation just within the month of December, it's just 1,500 dozen within the month of December, and this is the last data of 2022. Right? So basically, again. And the reason being, because sometimes persons will ask, well, why don't the farmers step up the production so you don't have to import? Yeah, while that is true, sometimes because the demand in December does not pass over into January, February, then the farmers would actually end at a loss, right? But
because they will have extra which they cannot get off.
They cannot get off,
right?
Because just knowing that there are farmers in syndicates also,
of course,
right?
And of course, we know why did the big demand in December? Everybody baking the cake and the Christmas cake and so on, and all the hotels are full,
and
carnival
in syndicates,
right?
And the birds don't lay as good in the cold temperatures and the dark night.
Okay.
But other than that, and what Mr. Elliott have mentioned is that the government have put some policies in place to protect the farmers and ensure that the farmers get their products off. For example, all registered poultry farmers are the only ones allowed to import eggs. If there is a need.
So you're saying the supermarkets do not get any permission to import the eggs?
No. You have to be a producer.
Have to be a registered producer.
And even if you are a registered producer and you ask for an import permit, the department call all the other producers and ask them, can you help this individual? And if no one can help, then you're given permit to import for a 2 weeks basis. And then once that farmer starts to produce to that level again, that farmer now pulls that import, because of course they want the egg to sell, no more import. And that's how we have been so successful at that, and we are hoping to take that model and do it for other commodities going forward.
So we can say here that the egg farmers get excellent support and added protection from the Nevis Island administration for their production.
Yes.
How long have we been self-sufficient in egg production? For 11 months.
I think we have been doing that since about 2018.
Okay.
Since about 2018.
Okay, fantastic.
But we would have started to make some significant improvements from, I think, around 2014 around there.
And we also, gentlemen, we also have to make the point that the eggs that are produced here on the island of Nevis look just as good. They are just as big as the eggs coming from overseas. The quality, you all have to make that point.
Better.
Okay.
Because for the few times that importations are allowed in, the supermarkets will complain they're not moving. People opening, looking at them, realizing, because
the public wants local egg.
A brown egg.
The public want local
and
egg.
then when they see the white egg, they see import. So they avoid the white egg. So most people on the island produce a brown egg.
Okay.
And they're smaller.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're smaller.
When you open a crate of eggs and it is local, when you look at the size and you look at the quality, I mean, it can compare to what we're getting from overseas. There's no comparison.
Of course not.
You know, so in essence, we are self-sufficient and we're producing better quality and larger eggs.
Yes.
Okay.
So we must commend the egg farmers for the work that they have been doing to ensure that productivity maintains, and we must commend the NIA also in terms of the policies that are in place to help to ensure that the egg producers are able to produce their eggs also.
Fantastic. Now we're talking about self-sufficiency. We spoke about green banana. We spoke about eggs, and I am sure lettuce is right there as well. So we need now to speak about the lettuce production, and we need to speak about not only the lettuce production, but we need to speak about the shade house production, and the giant strides we have made in shade house. Because every time I speak about shade house production, I have to brag, because I mean, we are the leader. Nevis is the leader in the sub-region where shade house production is concerned, and you can visit all the other islands from St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, all of them coming up. And none of these islands can compare to what we are doing here on the island of Nevis. And that is a fact. Can be verified by the AICA regional representative, Mr. Greg Rollins, who visits all of the other islands. And every time he comes to Nevis, he said, you all are leading by far.
Yes.
So we need the perspective now of shade house production and lettuce production on the island of Nevis.
Well, for lettuce production here on the island of Nevis, again, we can probably say that we are about 95% sufficient as it relates to lettuce in general. We are 100% sufficient as it relates to leafy lettuce. And again, this production is mostly driven by 5 shade house farmers that does different ranges of lettuce. Again, the only lettuce that is still imported into the island is the iceberg lettuce. That whitey lettuce that is used sometimes in the fast food, like the burgers and so forth. But if you're looking at for the lettuce that the average household purchase is the local lettuce, and you actually have persons that actually go to the supermarket looking for the local lettuce, and if it's not there, they just don't buy the iceberg. Again, our farmers have been able to displace that imported lettuce with the local lettuce, and we have giant of farmers such as the A1 farms in terms of Mackey, right there in Zetland. You have Richard Paris there in our Prospect, doing a complete different type of lettuce. You have Danny Atherton right there over in Casebay. You have Marcellus Lee again, who is actually producing. You have Andrew Williams there in Hamilton, who is also producing tremendous amount of lettuce on a weekly basis. We push out some.
And we have Mr. Solomon as well.
We have Solomon Pinney right there. Right there just below Harsford's. Again, on a weekly basis, we push out somewhere close 16,500 heads of lettuce on a weekly basis here on the island of Nevis. And again, it is just not lettuce in Nevis. The lettuce also goes to St. Kitts.
And I understand that is never enough.
There's never
because
enough.
I mean, recently I would have made a trip around to look at the greenhouse production, the shade house production, and the lettuce production, and I could recall very vividly when I spoke to Paris there in Prospect. It said, "I never ever have enough.
Never enough.
When as soon as they touch the supermarket shelves, they're gone.
Yes,
and that happens in St. Kitts as well.
Yes, never enough.
Know?
Imagine what happens, the demands in December.
Yeah, never
Precisely.
enough. Never enough. Never enough.
And it is interesting that you also mentioned that people are now, you mentioned it for the eggs, and you now mention it for the lettuce, because I know previously people always wanted to gravitate to the imported stuff.
Yes.
Because they were looking juicier with the number of chemicals and so on and on. But it's good now to hear that the local, the consumers are now looking more for the local products.
Yes.
Yes, we have a lot of local chefs now on hand, a lot of young people becoming chef, and they're utilizing the local products, and it's been spinning off. The introduction of the school feeding program, a lot of these vegetables are being utilized in the school, and so the same eating habits are transferred home when the church having picnic throughout the community. And so you see the shift rather than this imported thingy. You can identify a local product and you have acquired that taste for it, and so the market is there.
And of course we stress here again the quality, because when you visit these shade house producers, the greenhouses, I mean, when you look at the quality that is being put out there, it's really excellent quality.
Yes.
Can compare to anything that comes from overseas.
And I must commend our farmers also, because they are now doing quite a bit as it relates to packaging. So actually now when you see the products on the shelves, unless you read the fine detail in terms of saying, oh, a Paris leafy green or a A1 Farms, you would not know, it would not dawn on you, hey, this came from right here in Nevis, because the farmers are now changing the whole game in terms of agriculture here on the island of Nevis. And I must say kudos to those farmers who continue to step up, continue to invest into the sector, the NIA who to continue to support these farmers also to ensure that we're able to have these level of production day in, day out, day in, day out. Because what we have as a challenge at times, and again, is sometimes you have certain crops that are seasonal, and again, with the introduction of greenhouse technology, has been able to change that quite a bit. I remember a couple of years ago, when we spoke of greenhouse, we probably look at something with sticks, with some net, and so forth. But we have been able to make a revolution as it relates to greenhouse technology, not just on the island of Nevis, but as you mentioned, within the region. I remember on my first set of greenhouse training within the region, to me it was like, wow. But now when I look and see what we have and what the other islands have, I might say, no, we are actually light years ahead of them. And again, we would have started off with about three actually greenhouses. We're up to about 22 structures right now, just about 74,000 square feet of greenhouse. That translates to just a little bit over 2 acres of greenhouse if you are to compile all of them together. And again, these greenhouses are now operated by non-traditional farmers. So that's one of the things that we have been able to do within the agriculture sector, in terms of being able to change the image of how persons look at the sector and encourage now non-traditional farmers into the sector. And as the caller mentioned, in terms of youths, we have also been able to move that average age of our farmers from like 65, bring it down to about 40, 35, and so forth. So these persons are now the game changers within the sector. In terms of the structures that we have here on the island of Nevis, they have different range, different sizes, different levels of technology. But again, they're all, in terms of all that is operating, they're just 2 shade houses on the island of Nevis, and which are not currently operating because they're under construction.
Well, I'm happy that you mentioned all of that, because I was just going to make the point as well, in response to the caller when he spoke about involvement of the youth and empowering the young people, because practically all of these persons who are operating these shade houses are young people.
Yes.
And they have brought a different mindset to agriculture. They are business oriented. You know, I mean, and of course, what I've also realized with the evolution of the technology, that previously when we started out, I remember when I was in the Department of Agriculture, when the department had the first shade houses on the island, it was just tomato and sweet pepper.
Yes.
But now there's so many crops that are being produced. When I went up to A1 Farms recently and I saw the cucumbers that you have to go up on a ladder to pick the cucumbers, I mean, it's simply amazing. Yes. And I mean, when you look at this, it doesn't look like it's here in Nevis, but it's happening here in Nevis. When I looked at young Penny there below Hosfords, and when I saw the extravagant setup that he has there for the irrigation of his crops, I mean, it's simply amazing. And I have to commend the greenhouse farmers as well, because they are actually investing.
Yes, they are.
They are investing in their farm because they realize, listen, this is an enterprise that can make money.
Yes.
And they're making money. They're making money. And that is why they are investing. So I want to commend the shade house and the greenhouse producers for investing, and they're investing and they're hiring people. They have a steady business, because business is good, and that is why they can keep the lettuce production steady on the island and prevent us from importing so many heads of lettuce on the island. So kudos, and as I said, I am very, very proud that Little Nevis, 36 square mile Nevis, is leading in the sub-region where shade house and greenhouse technology is concerned. I remember when Greg Rollins was here earlier this year, he said, listen to me, down in St. Lucia and St. Vincent and Grenada, they are struggling with that technology, and we here, we have practically mastered that technology. And so kudos to the department, kudos to the support that the Nevis Island administration has given, and kudos to the farmers for taking it and running with it.
Yes, and I could recall when the technology just came here, because we didn't know much about it. We actually took it wholesale, and we're at the point now where even when someone you wish to invest, we could say, no, you don't need that, you don't need this. This could work here, that cannot work here. So we're actually at that point now where we would have been able to fine tune in terms of knowing what works in Nevis and what do not work in Nevis. We would have also went even a little further, where we actually have an officer specifically dealing with greenhouse, Mr. Peter Edwards, who's very knowledgeable also, who would have done quite a bit as it relates to growing of crop, construction of the shade houses and so forth. So I must say kudos to the investors in the technology, and a lot of them are expanding. I remember when A1 Farm started 2013 with just one shade house. He's up to about 4 now, and probably looking to continue to expand. So again, it's a business, and the farmers see it as a business, and they continue to invest.
And their mindset is the first institution I have seen who don't have to fight with farmers about this greed and so forth. Because I have been to A1 Farms, and he's saying, if we could only get more farmers involved, if he could work along with a partner, if some youngster is willing to partner with him, collaborate. When I'm fixing up one, your greenhouse is in production. They're willing to work together as a group.
Of course.
And that's the kind of mindset that we want to have if we are going to succeed, rather than you're in the corner and you're hiding and you're keeping your secrets.
And you're fighting
against each other. They're working together. And that's why they're having such success. If one is experiencing an issue, they call the other. And they go and they collaborate.
And of course you realize as well that they're doing their own little specializing in their own little they have their own little niche, because the kind of lettuce that is being produced at Prospect is not the kind of lettuce that is being produced up at our time.
No.
And it's not the kind of lettuce that is being produced there at Stony Grove. And so it's different types of lettuce, and so they have their own little niche market, you know. And so I'm really very pleased with what has been happening with the shade house technology and on the island of Nevis is concerned. Once again, big commendation, kudos to the farmers, to the Department of Agriculture, of course, and of course that support from the Nevis Island administration. Okay, once again, we are live on the map. We have two persons here from the Department of Agriculture, the Director, Mr. Randy Elliott, Chief Extension Officer, Mr. Steve Reed, and we're discussing, we started out discussing World Food Day, and now we're having a general discussion on agriculture. The lines remain open in case you want to call in, put anything on the table where agriculture is concerned, whether you want to respond to anything that you would have heard tonight. Of course, you would have heard there are lots of things happening in agriculture, a lot of things that persons don't even are not even aware of. I'm sure many of you are not aware of the fact that we are self-sufficient in eggs for 11 months of the year, that we are almost 80% production in terms of green bananas, that we are almost 100% self-sufficient in lettuce production. And so we are learning a lot of things tonight. It's a healthy discussion. But as we continue to discuss and as we continue to say what the island of Nevis is doing, what the department is doing, what the farmers are doing in our little way here on the island of Nevis to fight hunger and to make sure that people are nutritionally fed, and we are making sure that we have food security and food sovereignty. Let us look more about in terms of our services that we are providing now. Let us look at the abattoir. What is happening there? What are the products being produced there? Where are these products available?
Well, the abattoir is a monster within itself. Again,
we have a call online. Hold that thought. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark.
Good evening, Eric. I call back to just not to scare the public, but just to make the public aware of the fact that the wild pigs they're out there, and they have now come a little closer to society. Not only you find pigs in the mountains, so they're right there in Hangings Road, they're right there in Matchmans, they're close by, and they have some serious stuff. And so I just want to encourage people to chase them or call the Department of Agriculture, because the last thing you want is a little child straying somewhere in the yard and get be bitten by one of those wild pigs. The population has grown tremendously. Some people are taking care of them, but I think the focus from the agriculture department will have to start to go in that direction. They've been concentrating on monkeys and donkeys, and that is very important, because donkeys, of course, have accidents, and they still continue. But the wild pigs are now becoming a concern. They're eating lambs and kids as well. And like I said, the last thing you want is to have wild pigs attacking people. So I just thought I'd put that out there so you guys can look into it, because you won't be able to have a good farm or good farmers and good products if you have pigs rooting up the farms.
And of course, we know the wild pigs can eat the young lambs and young kids as well.
Definitely. So I just thought I'd try it out there, not to alarm, not to make a big alarm, but just to basically contribute to the wide discussion of how we can have the place fully secured in terms of locally grown food.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. But I'm a little confused sometimes, because how did we get to this where we actually have wild pigs on Nevis? Because I remember at one point in time we did not have enough pork. People started to grow more pigs. Is it that persons just let their pigs loose, like what they did with donkeys? We have another call online. Caller, good evening. You're live and on the mark.
Yes. Good evening again.
Yes.
Let me first compliment the Department of Agriculture.
Thank you.
The information that you disseminated this evening was rather interesting, because I never realized that we have accomplished so much.
Yes.
There's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes.
And we have just touched the tip of the iceberg. You haven't heard all yet,
Okay, well, you see what happened now? The information, you need to have more programs like this.
Yes, sir.
Where you can update the public as to what is happening, so that they can appreciate what has been done a little bit more.
Yes.
Another point. Seeds.
Yes.
I'm a member of a Rastafari movement, Higher Heights, We're just coming on stream at the moment. We have a piece of land over at Catesby that we are now fencing up. I'm getting ready to do some agriculture. We have a friend in Miami who sent us some seeds. And when I go to clear the box, he had in some other stuff, but at customs they took out the seeds and hold them and tell me I have to get a license to import agricultural seeds. I found that was rather crazy. So I'm asking the question here, maybe the director or somebody, or you, the minister, can give me a little bit more insight as to why is it this?
Well, there are procedures and so on in place, and I will allow Mr. Elliott to answer. Because as a matter of fact, I had a conversation with someone from overseas. I think it was only yesterday, where the person was thinking of bringing in some household chemicals to fight roaches, and I told the person no, and I even told the person we need to educate persons more, because persons don't know when they go to Walmart or where they like to pick up stuff and bring, whether you put it in your luggage, whether you post it, whether you mail it, whether you bring it with you. You cannot just do that anymore. You cannot just go and pick up an ant bait somewhere and bring it with you. You need to get a permit. So I will let Mr. Elliott answer that for you.
Okay, good evening, caller. Again, I will try to address the concerns that you have specifically. Prior to now, persons were allowed to just import seeds, any seeds, right? And what we would have found over the years is that quite a bit of seeds now do transfer a lot of seed-borne viruses. You cannot necessarily, like, sometimes know if there's a virus within a seed. We would have had some cases where we would have seen some crops planted, imported seeds planted within particular areas, and you would have seen traditional crops just going down with viruses that were unknown to you before. So one of the things that we now put in place is to ensure that once someone is importing seeds within the Federation, we have to make sure that the source of the seeds is one that is reputable. We want to make sure that the seeds are treated and tested
and certified
also before the seeds enter into the Federation. Based on all the work that you would have heard us here doing, we have to protect the little that we're doing, because it's still just a touch of the iceberg, right? And there's a lot more that we wish to do. So at this point in time, we have to protect the little that we're doing, and to ensure that whatever cultivars or seeds or even plants that are coming in within the Federation, we have to ensure that we're not opening up ourselves to invasive species, invasive viruses and so forth, that once there's an outbreak, then we here may not have the capacity to deal with it.
Understandable. I applaud that.
Yes, there's an explanation.
So
when I don't know,
yes,
and I expect that when I go and I clear my stuff, I'm gonna get all my seeds to travel with, and I don't have to go back and forth, and then the customs hold my stuff.
Yes.
If you disseminate the information and everybody knows, then I would know prior.
Precisely.
And then it could save my time wasting. So information dissemination is very, very, very important.
Excellent point.
Yes.
Excellent point, caller.
And caller, you may tell your farming colleagues that in the future there's a list at the Department of Agriculture with all the companies that we deemed certify and have good reputation, so that when they're purchasing seeds, these are companies that you should look towards. Not only that they're safe, they're no GMOs and all these kind of engineered stuff. So check with the Department of Agriculture, and not only for seed, for those people out there who are also trying to look into pesticides and so forth.
I just made a point.
You know, check with the Department of Agriculture first. Maybe it's just the trade name. Once the active ingredient has been approved on island, you shouldn't get any trouble, right, Mr. Elliott?
No, once the trading is different, it's the actual different chemical. There's a list of pesticides that are actually registered already. Again, what we have seen of recent is persons are just, as Minister said, going on Walmart or going on
in a supermarket, right? And pick up something
and just picking up
and bring it home.
And bring it home. Sometimes what you find happening is that when you bring those things home, some of these things are carcinogenic in terms of being cancerous and so forth. Some of these things you.
Okay, excuse me there.
Yes.
Let me listen to the rest of here, but just to confirm.
Yes.
The list of seeds and companies that you deemed certified. I can collect a list of that.
Yes. You'll get that to the for the seeds, you could get it from Plant Quarantine and also the pesticides.
Okay.
The procedure with the pesticide is that you check the list. Once you find
I'm not too much into pesticides right now.
Okay, no problem.
Let's not hear on that.
Okay. Thank you, caller. If I could just elaborate a little bit on that as well, Randy and Steve, because I'm happy the caller made the call and ask those questions, because when I was in the Department of Agriculture, I spent quite a lot of time in quarantine, and so I can explain all of that in terms of it's amazing how pests and diseases get into the islands. Some very mysterious ways, and we have to recognize Nevis is very small, and when a pest come into the island, an invasive species that we don't have, it gets across the island very, very, very quickly. And we here, because the island is so small, we have to protect our agriculture. The agriculture is thriving right now, but we must do what we can to protect. And so sometimes when people are going to say, well, I came in and I brought in a sprig of plant, I brought in a flower, and then if it is confiscated, people get upset. But you don't know what is coming in with that flower or that piece of plant that you like. Sometimes you visit a farm overseas and you might be amazed. A little piece of dirt that is stuck onto your shoe. When you come here, you bring all kind of soil-borne diseases with you. And as I said, because the island is small, it is amazing how the things are transported. I mean, when we had stuff like the giant African snail, stuff that affects the citrus and so on, we don't know how they get here.
Fire ants.
We don't know how they get here. It's always a mystery.
The mealybug.
The mealybug. It's always a mystery, and when they come, they spread like wildfire. And that is why we have to have checks and balances in place, and that is why people cannot just go now and buy seeds from anywhere, because as I said, the seeds have to be checked and certified and so on. You cannot just go and pick up chemical and send home in your luggage or bring it in your luggage. It's going to be confiscated. And I'm happy the caller raised the point, because sometimes people are not aware. And we empathize when people are not aware, because I've had many calls from persons who say, well, I sent home some seeds to my family and they hold the seeds them, but there is a reasoning behind all of that. I had a call from a lady the other day. She said she had some household chemicals there from Puerto Rico. They held them, so I had to explain to her, you cannot just bring in a chemical now unless you get a license. So the TDCs and the hospitals and so on that they're bringing in the chemicals, they have to apply for a license. And as I explained to the person who I spoke to overseas only yesterday, I said the chemicals that are utilized in St. Kitts and Nevis, they are sanctioned by what we call a pesticide board.
Yes.
So it is not just you do it haphazardly. There's a pesticide board for St. Kitts and Nevis, and they sanction what chemicals can be used. So in essence, you may go to a store or supermarket, pick up a chemical when the chemical is actually banned here.
Yes. And if Mr. Minister, tying this into water, right? If most people notice that our water table is mostly at the coastline, you have the Nelson Spring and below the park there. Just imagine you import a chemical that's carcinogenic, and you're using it up in the Hamilton area, high elevations, and that drains down into our water table. And then you wonder, well, how come so much people get sick and getting cancer and all kind of stuff? So we want to prevent that. It's a small island.
Precisely.
And we only promote, when people hear us talk about chemical, it's either organic or environmentally friendly. That means by the time it touches the soil, it deactivates.
Right.
Or over time and exposure to the elements, it deactivates. So the term chemical seems a bit harsh. But people have to understand there's a reason why we're trying to do what we're doing. And it's for their benefit, our benefit, our children benefit. Only 36 square miles we have.
And I'm happy the caller was so understanding, because a lot of the times when people call me, they would say, I spend my money and I buy the chemical, I buy the seeds, and how come you're all holding them? You know? So there is a reasoning behind holding the stuff and confiscating sometimes. There is always a reason. We are trying to ensure that our agriculture is as pest and disease free as possible, because some of these pests and diseases are very devastating, and once they get here, we're in trouble. Gentlemen, we are running out of time. We haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg. We have a caller. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark. Hello. Good evening. You're live and on the mark.
Good night.
Yes.
To justify some of the things that you just spoke to, right?
Yes.
And turning seeds and plant particles coming into the federation.
Yes.
I first call pink mealybug.
Yes.
Fire ant. And the coconut trees that was
lethal yellowing.
And needed.
Yes.
Those are the key points that we call to justify. You just can't bring in anything, because the pink mealybug has a big problem with the and
huge. Yes.
Costly. So your ants, like a lot, and to know when you do the fire ants, them
precisely.
And then the coconut trees and there. Oh my God! So when you hear people tell you can't do that, I believe sometimes if they didn't get involved in the right channels and they bring in certain things, just burn them right away.
All right, sir.
Because they might be on the island and causing problems while they're here, and right determination is not done to them, and the disease spread. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, we're running out of time, so I want to just quickly remind folks about what's happening on Friday.
Well, again, we're just asking general public to come out and support the Department of Agriculture on Friday, along with the farmers. And all who's going to be there is going to be fresh cooked food from different territories. The abattoir will be there with the diced beef, sliced pork, local chicken, ground pork, beef neck bones, rotisserie chicken, etc. The prices are extremely well. We have a lot of fresh watermelons, honeydew, squash, bananas, a load of sorrel, right? As the young lady would have told me, a load of sorrel. Again, a lot of information as it relates to water harvesting, etc. Entertainment, a well-stocked bar, and again, the bouncing castle for the children. A nice Friday to be had right there at the Villa Grounds from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. So we're just asking the public to come and support.
Tommy, stay where you are. Final word, Mr.
And being a technician and just using the opportunity to tell our farmers to trim those banana trees, the leaves off, do the pruning. If you have any watermelons, cabbage or anything out there, harvest them now. We didn't get to touch on the Livingston Parish storage facility.
I know,
but harvest them now and take them into storage. We don't want you to lose. You already put in the effort. So keep tuned to Van and the other media houses to hear the updates on the storm. I think Mr. Elliott will send out something sometime during the course tomorrow to alert farmers of the procedures when a storm is around the corner. So stay tuned.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Steve Reed and Mr. Randy Elliott from the Department of Agriculture. Listen, I did say we had a lot to cover tonight. I know we were not going to be able to cover it, but people need to be aware of what's happening in agriculture. I just want to endorse what you all said. Thank you all very much for coming. And I just wanted to remind the public as well that we need to come out in your numbers on Friday to the Villa in Charlestown for our AgriFest for World Food Day 2023. everything in agriculture that you need is going to be there from 9 a.m. you guys said?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. So come on out. I'm going to send out an SOS. Tammy, stay where you are. Let us keep our AgriFest before you come. All right. So if you're going to bring some rain, bring it on Saturday. Okay. So hold it back on. Okay. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. I want to thank all of our callers who call in. Thanks for listening. And remember, this program comes on again tomorrow from 1. It's a rebroadcast from 1 until 3. If you missed it tonight, listen tomorrow. If you listen tonight, listen again tomorrow. So on behalf of my guests, it has been our pleasure having you here on the Mark. It's been my pleasure. Thank you. Good night and God bless.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants